I'm going to show you guys how to create these perfect sci-fi laser sounds from just noise. So before we get started, I just want to go ahead and set up our groups, such as our noise, our FX group, and our post effects, as well as our gain reduction group. So for our generators, I'm just going to go ahead and add a noise generator, rename this noise. Then I'm going to come over here to the effects, add another new group, and call this filter sweep. And then I'm going to add another group and call this FX. And then I'm going to add a post effects group, so I'm just going to call it post. And then I'm going to do our gain reduction group. And then the last thing I'm going to add here is a limiter. Perfect. And there's no modulator, so we don't have to worry about that. Then I'm going to come over here to our macro knobs, and for our first macro, I'm just going to call this filter sweep. And then for macro 2, I'm just going to call this gain reduction. Alright, now let's go ahead and lay out some MIDI and set it to C2. Now that we have everything set up, the first thing I want to start out with is our filter sweep. And so for this, it's just going to be 2 filter snap-ins. And so for the Q, I'm going to right click and hit 5, and then I'm going to turn the cutoff all the way down. And then for our second filter, I'm going to right click the Q and hit 5 as well. And for our filter slope, I'm going to right click and set it to 3. And I'm going to do the same thing for our second filter snap-in here. And I'm also going to turn the cutoff all the way down for our second filter snap-in. Now I want to modulate our cutoff with our filter sweep macro knob, so I'm going to hit the plus and modulate it by 100%. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the second filter snap-in, so modulate it by 100%. And that is pretty much it for our filter sweep group. So it sounds like this. That's kind of loud, so we're going to go ahead and set up our gain reduction group next. For a gain reduction group, it's just going to be 2 gain snap-ins. So now that we have those inside the group, I'm going to come over here to our macro knob, right click on the gain reduction macro knob, and for the macro polarity, I'm going to set it to minus. And so now I'm going to turn our gain reduction macro knob all the way up, and then modulate our gains by -50. So I'm going to come over here to the macro knob plus, right click on our first gain, and hit -50. Then I'm going to do the same thing for our second gain snap-in, so I'm going to hit the plus of our gain reduction macro knob, come over here to the second gain snap-in, right click, and hit -50. And so now we can go ahead and turn down our sound. I'm going to leave it at 12%. You could just alternatively grab a gain snap-in and just manually turn it down, but I kind of like having the option to turn it down with the macro knob. Or you could also just turn it down with the master gain here inside of Faceplant. Now we're going to move on to our FX group, so I'm going to go ahead and turn our filter sweep all the way down. Then for our FX group, I'm going to go ahead and add a shaper and a snap heap. For our shaper, I'm going to come down here where it says default to choose a preset inside of the simple folder, and then I'm going to click on concave. I'm going to right click the drive and set it to 8. And then I'm going to right click the mix and set it to 28. Now we're going to go ahead and work on our snap heap. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, do parallel processing, add a filter table, and a delay. And so for our filter table, I'm going to come over here to the presets, hit the combs folder, and click on fake unison. For the frames of the filter table, I'm going to set it all the way up to 256. I'm going to go ahead and turn the resonance all the way up. Also going to leave the mix at 100%. And I'm going to leave the cutoff to about halfway, so around like 702 Hertz. And also inside of this snap heap, I'm going to come over here to our first macro knob and call this sweep. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the sweep macro knob all the way up. Then I'm going to modulate the frames of our filter table. So I'm going to come over here to our plus of our sweep, right click the frames, and hit -100. Perfect. And then I'm also going to modulate our cutoff, so I'm going to come over here to the plus of our sweep macro knob, right click the cutoff, and hit 24. Now it's time to work on our delay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. I'm going to right click on the delay and set it to 140, and then I'm going to modulate the delay by -12, so I'm going to come over here to the plus of our sweep, right click on the delay, and hit -12. I'm also going to turn our feedback up by quite a bit, so around like 68%, and then I'm also going to turn the mix to 100%. And that is pretty much all we're going to do inside of this snap heap. And so make sure the sweep macro knob inside of the snap heap is turned up all the way. And now we're going to modulate this sweep with our first macro knob inside of our Faceplant. And so I'm going to hit the plus, right click the sweep, and modulate it by -100. And so now it should sound like this. I'm going to go ahead and lower that down a little bit more with our gain reduction. Perfect. Now for the last thing, I'm going to do post FX. So I'm going to add a shaper, and then I'm going to add a filter. And so inside of our shaper, I'm going to create this kind of shape, right click the drive and hit 4, right click the mix and set it to 14%. And then for our filter, we want it to be a low pass, and all we're going to do in here is just mess with the cutoff. So I'm going to right click the cutoff and set it to 7,000 Hertz. And so that way when we mess with the filter sweep macro knob, it's not too resonant in the high end. And so it should sound like this. Sweet. So before I end the video, I just want to let you guys know that this preset is going to be available for free on my website, so if you want to download that, you can. And so you can record some pretty cool samples with just this filter sweep macro knob inside of our faceplant. All you have to do is come down here into faceplant, hit configure, and click on the filter sweep macro knob, and make some sort of crazy automation. So something like this. And voila, that is how you make sci-fi with just noise. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Adios.